You check your phone before you're even fully awake. Another notification. Another deadline. Another 60-hour week that somehow still isn't enough. You tell yourself this is just what adult life looks like. Everyone's tired. Everyone's behind. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a question you can't quite shake. Is this just how humans are built to live? For most of the last 300,000 years, the answer was no. Not even close. In 1963, an anthropologist named Richard Lee packed up and moved into the Kalahari Desert to live alongside a community of hunter-gatherers called the Hoansi, Hoansi, also known as the Kung San. He wanted to answer a question nobody had actually measured before. How many hours does it really take to survive as a hunter-gatherer? So he tracked their days. Hunting, gathering, eating, resting, talking. And the number he came back with stunned an entire field of anthropology. About 15 hours a week. That's it. 15 hours of hunting and gathering was enough to feed an entire community. Less than half of what you probably spend at your job, and that's before you count the commute. Add in domestic work, cooking, making tools, carrying water, and the total climbed to somewhere around 35 hours a week. Still less than the modern average. And none of it came with a boss, a performance review, or a Sunday night dread of Monday. In 1966, another anthropologist, Marshall Sahlins, looked at Lee's numbers and coined a phrase that flipped an entire assumption about prehistory on its head. He called it the original affluent society. Not affluent because these communities had more stuff. Affluent because they wanted less, and what they wanted, they could get quickly. Sahlins put it bluntly. Hunter-gatherers, he said, kept something close to bankers' hours. Other researchers pushed back over the years, arguing over exactly how those hours should be counted, whether childcare should be included, whether one community's numbers could stand in for an entire species. That debate is real, and it's still going. But even the more conservative estimates that came out of it never landed anywhere close to a modern work week. The core finding held up. People who lived by hunting and gathering worked dramatically less than people do today, and they weren't scraping by while doing it. So let's reconstruct a normal day. You wake up when your body is ready, not when an alarm decides for you. There's no clock to answer to. In the cool of the morning, you head out with a few others to gather mongongo nuts, dig up roots, track game. You talk as you walk. Nobody is rushing, because there's nowhere else you're supposed to be. By midday, when the desert heat turns unbearable, you're back in the shade of camp, resting alongside people you've known your entire life. There's no inbox to check, no meeting that could have been a message, no sense that you should be doing something more productive with this hour. Just people and unclaimed time. Then the sun goes down, and something interesting happens. This is where anthropologist Polly Wiessner comes in. In a 2014 study, she recorded and compared conversations among the Hoansi, Hoansi, during the day and at night, around the fire. Daytime talk was mostly practical. Complaints, hunting plans, small disputes that needed settling. But firelight conversation was almost entirely something else. Stories, myths, gossip, memories, jokes passed around the flames. Over 80% of what people said at night wasn't about work at all. Fire didn't just push back the darkness, it bought people hours of pure, unhurried social time, night after night, for hundreds of thousands of years. Compare that to your evenings, squeezed between a glowing laptop screen and a to-do list that never actually empties. Here's the part that should really bother you. This wasn't a fluke, one lucky tribe in one lucky desert. Similar patterns turned up again and again, from Aboriginal communities in Arnhem Land to other San groups across southern Africa. It wasn't the exception. It looks a lot more like the default setting for our species. So what changed? Agriculture. Somewhere around 10,000 years ago, farming let people grow food surpluses for the first time. But that surplus came at a cost. It chained people to the land, to the harvest calendar, to the fear of a failed crop and grain stores that had to be guarded and defended. Work stopped being something you did for a few focused hours and then simply stopped. It became something that never fully ended. Anthropologist James Sussman, who has spent more than 3 decades living with and studying these same Kalahari communities, argues the deeper story isn't just about the hour count. It's that hunter-gatherer societies never really separated work from life in the first place. There was no clock to punch, which meant there was no real sense of clocking out either, because you were never fully clocked in. Gathering food, telling a story, resting in the shade, raising a child. It was all just the day, flowing into itself. You, on the other hand, live inside a system built to ask for more of your time than it will ever actually need. More hours logged, more output, more availability, even long after the workday has technically ended, glowing on a screen in your pocket. There's always one more email, one more thing you could be optimizing. And when you finally collapse at the end of it, exhausted in a way that a weekend never quite fixes, it's easy to assume something is wrong with you specifically, that you're less disciplined, less resilient, worse at managing your time than everyone around you seems to be. But burnout isn't a personal failing, and it isn't proof that you're somehow weaker than the people who came before you. It's closer to a mismatch, a brain shaped by roughly 15-hour work weeks and long, unhurried fireside evenings, handed a 24-hour notification feed instead, and quietly told to keep up. So the next time you check your phone before you're even fully awake, remember this: your body isn't broken. It's just still waiting for the fire to be lit.